So my name is Diana Hammad, and I am here with...
I'm Symon Perrimon.
And Symon, how did you get involved with Disruptive Technologists and becoming on the panel today?
Well, I spent a long time at Microsoft, about 8 years, where we were kind of at the cutting edge of a lot of technologies. So that's been something I've worked with for a while, primarily with cloud computing. And today the focus is on artificial intelligence, and I'm seeing that used across pretty much every industry now. A lot of people don't even realize it. And I run several businesses right now. They're very different, but we use artificial intelligence in all of them.
Yeah, your businesses are so different and so unique. Like one is very fan focused, the other is a little bit more internal work. So can you talk a little bit about your projects and why do you choose what you choose?
Sure. So Express is a secure productivity and communications network with a variety of different tools that run on it. So kind of like a secure version of Slack. And we use artificial intelligence in that space to kind of optimize messaging, as well as help users optimize their workflows, to automatically order an Uber, to do process workflows. So it's basically helping businesses become more efficient. The other business I run is called Fanwide. We're the world's largest fan club network, and we promote sports events for people around the country. And we use artificial intelligence to help project where people are going to be moving to, traveling to, popular sporting events, just based on different times of the year.
And a lot of people have been noticing that AI and technology in general, it's great because it is replacing a lot of jobs that people don't have to do, but it's also replacing a lot of people. Is that something you think we have to be worried about, or is it actually in our benefit?
Well, I think you saw a similar transition when cloud computing happened. People that were doing repetitive, rote jobs, they started to get displaced by automation. And AI kind of does automation, but at a larger scale. So what we're going to start to see is shifts in the industry. It's not that it's going to take away jobs. There might just be a shift in skill sets. So people that were doing repetitive data analytics tasks, they can now learn how to manage AI. They can learn to optimize that. And so really the skill set is shifting from doing these repetitive tasks to setting up the platform, the processes, to be able to do that at a much bigger scale.
So what is something that you can predict in the future? It's hard. No one's a fortune teller, right? But if you could see the next 10 years from now, the future of AI, what's your prediction?
Well, I think the biggest trend that we've seen in the last couple of years has been the commodification, meaning that even 5-10 years ago, I couldn't just go and hook into an AI system and give an image and get a response. Now that cloud computing and fast bandwidth has happened, we've allowed anyone to have access to AI who wants it. So we're going to continue to see the prices go down, the opportunities go up, accuracy increase. So I think a lot of businesses are really going to embrace it, or they're going to start to fall behind the competition. Whether that's they're less efficient, they make less revenue, they don't have the same benefits of doing marketing to such a targeted audience. So I think most industries are going to be changed by it, especially the high-tech ones.
And how do you feel about incorporating, so for having, let's say Fanwire, for example, being such a people-centric company and just a concept, so how do you feel about influencer marketing and just incorporating social media into what you do?
So at least on the sports side, social media is huge. We work with several professional athletes. Cliff Averill, one of the Seahawks players, is a brand ambassador and advisor. So influential marketing, that's critical for us. Whenever you're a new brand, a new company, being able to work with an influencer who believes in you, has people trust in him, gives you the opportunity to amplify that message, but also with credibility. It helps you break down barriers, get into new industries. And certainly for myself, coming from a high-tech field, moving into sports where I didn't have any real reason to be there, it was tough to kind of break into that. So working with influencers really goes a long way.
Nice. But you're a sports fan, though, right?
A sports fan, but not an athlete, though.
Well, you don't have to be an athlete to enjoy it and to have great ideas about
That's
it.
true. That's true. But one of the things I thought that was really surprising when I moved into the industry was there's kind of irrational economics in sports. What I mean by that is you work with big brands, big companies, professional athletes. Traditional economics of, hey, we do this, we get out of this, doesn't really work just because they have so much value built into them.
Well, very well said. So I want you to finish this sentence. I wish robots could...
I wish robots could get rid of every boring part of my life.
Ooh, wow, that's happening.
Get there, though. We are going to get there, right? It'll take a little longer, right? They got to know you, they got to personalize it, and it's not just training the robots on the patterns that they have to recognize. That's kind of the core of artificial intelligence, but it's also making sure they do the right responses at the right time, which is part of that as well.
Right. And this group that we're a part of today, Disruptive Technologists, that is like a heck of a word, words. What does it mean to be a disruptive technologist?
I think it really means, look at the cutting edge of the industry. AI is going to be a disruptive technology. It's going to alter the way that every single business operates, runs, functions, becomes more efficient. So I think a group like this is great. It's a collection of open-minded people. They're looking for cutting-edge technologies, and they want to share that with the community. Anytime you want to go and build a community, you have to do events like this, bringing hundreds of people together, sharing that knowledge, sharing that information. So I think this is a great group, and these are the type of people that want to learn these ideas, bring them into their own businesses, their own organizations, which will help amplify and spread that message as well.
Very nice. And I have to ask you, what is something you personally geek out on?
So one of the things that I've been most excited with is Express, this company that I'm working with, because what they've done is they've solved the privacy issue which exists in every industry, right? If you've been on Google, Facebook, Slack, they've all been hacked. That's just a fact, right? Personal data is being compromised. So what I really like about Express is they've basically built this network. It's got the best encryption in the industry. So from you sending any type of message, it gets transmitted to your friends, to your business, to the government. Any organization just has this entirely encrypted network. So it's fairly revolutionary in what they're doing. The company's just come out of stealth mode, so this is really the second week we started to talk about it as a business. So we're excited to see how it will grow.
Well, I'm excited too. Well, this has been very enlightening. I'm so happy that you were our first speaker, and I'm really excited to hear you on the panel with so many of these other brilliant panelists, experts in AI and tech. And I don't know if you can give us a hint of what you'll be talking about, but we're more than
Sure.
happy.
So kind of what I'm going to be focusing on is the role that corporations have with AI ethics. So if you're a business, you're using AI, how should you be ethical? Where are the boundaries? What should you allow people to do or not allow people to do? And so we're going to bring up a lot of thought-provoking questions around what role should corporations play in the development of AI.
Yeah, definitely. It also seems like something that we should teach people too. Maybe we can get on the same page.
I think so. I mean, we're still a kind of a foundation, right? With it being so new. I mean, artificial intelligence ethics has kind of been around for a while. Since the 1940s, there were science fiction writers that wrote about the laws of robotics, things like that. But it's really only now that it's becoming applicable where it can change every day, and each company does have a responsibility to themselves, to their shareholders, but more importantly to their customers about how they handle that data and keep it secure and what they use it for.
Well, very much looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Symon.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Imran Anwar, IMRANANWAR, Imran Anwar.
Imran, how did you come to be at the panel tonight for Disruptive Technologists?
Well, I've always been interested in technology that makes the world a better place, and anything that drives innovation and helps people live better, more productive lives, which is the mission of Microsoft. So when I was invited to be on the panel, I was just delighted because this is something very close to my heart.
Yeah. And you've had a history with Microsoft too. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I've been at Microsoft in a couple of roles since about 6 years. And the role I am in currently is customer success. My focus right now is financial services, but in the past, Department of Defense and other major global organizations. And what I'm driven by in my role at Microsoft is to drive customer success, which is to help them use the technology they already own and get value from it to drive meaningful results that help them, help their customers, and at the end of the day, make the world a better place.
That's what it's all about. And the way that we're able to do it now with technology and AI is just amazing. Where do you see the future of technology? It's hard to predict, but do you have a guess?
Well, I see AI becoming far more entrenched into our lives in many different ways. Obviously, it's up to us to make sure that the ways that AI embeds itself in our lives through technology and other means is something that is for the common good, for the mass good, and also for the individual good. It should make lives easier, it should make lives better, it should make us more secure, but not at the cost of total privacy loss, not at the cost of bias or discrimination or scaring people. And so those are the challenges that we'll have to navigate together. But what I see AI doing for the most part is driving productivity, innovation, and just the user experience that people have with everything, not just with tech, but even with cars, even with the household appliances, etc. So innovation and the customer experience, I think those will be the key drivers and key beneficiaries of the common person from these technologies.
And you are actually going to be hosting this panel tonight with some of the most brilliant minds of AI and tech, which is, no pressure, right?
No, absolutely. What I would say then is AI is artificial intelligence. My initials are IA, Imran Anwar. I just hope that the flip around doesn't mean that artificial intelligence versus natural stupidity. So I hope that's not what it turns out to be.
No, I doubt it. You'll be fine.
But I'm looking forward to literally meeting some of the smartest people. And I always feel that the opportunity organizations like Microsoft give people who work here, and also by events like this, is for us to be what we really all need to be better at. Learn it all. Not know it all, but learn it all. And you cannot learn unless you're sitting with smarter people and asking and answering difficult questions.
That is very true. It's tough to be. You never want to be the smartest person in the room, right?
Unless you're the only person in the room.
Yeah, that's very true too. Wow. So finish this sentence. I wish a robot could
Do my taxes.
Well, there's TurboTax, but that's not the same thing, right?
No. Well, the other thing is I personally hate cooking, but I love eating. So a robot that could cook a lot of good food for me, especially Pakistani. And I'll take some French and sushi, sashimi too.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, I would like that same robot. Well,
Buy your own.
oh yeah, that's very true. We can't
That's
share.
how the market will grow. Otherwise, we'll be like, all fighting for one robot.
Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. Best of luck interviewing and speaking to these hosts tonight. I'm really excited for the panel. And you're wonderful. Thank you, Imran.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, my name is Sep DeMeglio, SEP, and I'm a developer audience manager for Microsoft.
Nice. And Sep, so how did you come to be involved in this event tonight with Disruptive Technologists?
So Emily Hove, who manages the Reactor Spaces for Microsoft, connected me with the event organizers for this event and asked if I would be interested in coming and helping out set up and facilitate and tell everybody a little bit about my team and the Reactor team and what they have going on.
Yeah, so I was doing a little bit of research before that, and Microsoft Reactor, that is like a big thing around here. So it's more than an experiential space. Can you tell me a little bit about the Microsoft Reactor?
Yeah. So the Microsoft Reactor team's mission is pretty much to allow community members across all of the different areas around the country to come and gather and speak with no agenda about Microsoft coming into play, and just have a safe space for communities to come and meet. And they provide food, beverage, and venue sponsorship for free of cost, which is pretty nice.
And do you get to test out any products or just talk about new initiatives?
Yeah, so depending on the event, like I said, if it's a non-Microsoft event and they're not interested in having any Microsoft technology or anything like that come into play, that's totally fine. They could just come and present whatever technology that the specific organization is working on. But if you want some connections with Microsoft, we're more than happy to make those and bridge those connections. So we've had people come out from different teams. There's an event happening in January, actually, a game expo, where we're bringing people in from Xbox and all over the different orgs at Microsoft to come and show off some technology.
Very cool. So anyone can use the space.
Yeah, anyone, regardless of their liking of Microsoft or not.
Yeah. No, everybody loves Microsoft. We love Microsoft.
Yeah.
So cool. So before you got involved with this team, what were you doing before? How did you get into this whole space of technology?
Yeah. So I'm a recent university graduate. I graduated from Pace in downtown Manhattan, right over here last year. And before I graduated, I was actually a Microsoft student partner. And essentially, those are technology-based students that kind of amplify Microsoft presence on campus. So I used to have different kinds of events and work with different teams at Microsoft to put on technology-inspired events on campus. So I would teach non-technical majors about technology. I would teach kind of more technical workshops to the technological majors and things like that.
Nice. So that's something we don't see too much in I would say the majority of college campuses is like the incorporation of robotics and tech, and like now more than ever with STEAM coming into play with kids that are, kindergarten and up. It sounds like you were very active in college. How do we get that in more schools so that people can work at Microsoft, or they can discover a new love of just the industry?
Yeah, for sure. That's actually what my team is focused on. My team, the developer audience team, is focused on developers across the nation all up. And my specific role on the team is to help engage with emerging developers. So those are developers from 0 to 5 years in career, and how we can help them build their careers over time, and what we can do to help the student team at Microsoft amplify the students to learn more about technology, learn more about Microsoft, learn more about development of their skills. I actually just completed on Friday an hour of code at a high school in New Jersey, and I taught 5 different classes, like an intro to Python lesson, to try to spark some interest in kids learning how to code.
And what did they think?
They liked it, I think. I hope so.
Yeah.
They were doing like a Python build snowflakes challenge. It was very festive, on brand. Yeah.
Very on brand.
Yeah, they got some Microsoft swag. They all enjoyed that.
Cool. Free swag, always. That'll definitely reel people in. Free swag and pizza.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. So I just have to ask personally, doesn't have to be affiliated with Microsoft, what do you geek out on?
So I'm actually one of those technologists that have a background in both art and technology. So in university, I studied digital design and computer science. And so I really like the marriage between those two. So I really like talks and going to events and working on projects that incorporate the two of them, and the marriage between art and science.
Definitely.
I think the time before now, obviously, that society and people, civilization, has made some of its biggest strides in innovation was during the Renaissance, and that's when they used to value scientists as much as they would value artists. And I think somewhere down the line we kind of lost that, with thinking that artists are no longer innovators of their generation. And I think it's really important to kind of bring that back and think about how a creative mindset can really advance technology. Yeah, so I think a disruptive technologist is, just as the name suggests, someone that goes into their field and disrupts, or is a trailblazer in their field, and they break the timeline of whatever it means to be normal or normative in their field, and they go and take a really untraditional route. Someone who's not afraid to take risks and worry about maybe someone thinks that's stupid, or someone doesn't think that that's the way things are supposed to be done. That's usually when historically we make the best innovations and the best findings and discoveries, is when people aren't afraid to try new things and always advance.
Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much, Sep.
No, thank you so much.
Sure. My name is Tamika Vasquez. That'll be TAMEKA VASQUEZ.
And Tamika, how did you come to be a part of the panel at Disruptive Technologists tonight?
Yeah, I actually connected with our moderator a few months back, Oliver Christie, and he introduced me to Lauren, and the rest is history. I mean, this is a topic I'm really passionate about. So in expressing that, I guess she remembered me, and here I am.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful. We're so looking forward to having you.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time.
So in terms of personal achievement or just advancements in technology, AI, what is something that you can say that you've contributed to that you're really proud about?
Yeah, I don't know what I've contributed besides just being present, because I think I started in the world of AI when I was in graduate school. I did a master's thesis on just cognitive disruption and all this stuff, and I'm really fascinated by the topic. So I think from that point on, it just became a matter of, can I work in the space, utilizing my skill set, which is marketing, business development, strategy, and things like that. Could I teach? And so currently I do teach a bit of management, a little bit about civic innovation, and topics like knowledge management and all of this stuff. So I kind of dabble in as many ways as I can between full-time work, teaching, and mentoring. I advise a couple startups, so I'd like to think I'm contributing something, but I guess it's to be determined in many ways.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So when you're in the role as an advisor, what is a common, not mistake, but just something that people don't really take into account when they're first getting, going with their business?
Yeah. What I've probably encountered the most, and it's probably by nature of my role being focused on marketing strategy, is a lot of companies have a really hard time verbalizing exactly what problems they're solving. And, it's kind of this chicken and egg thing. It's like, do you have the technology first, or do you have the recognition of a specific need first? And as long as you can find that comfortable space in the middle, I think you'll be much better off. But it's just a common pitfall that I've found.
That is something that I feel like a lot of companies would benefit, just defining what it is that they're trying to solve. So when it comes to, you said that you like being a disruptor. Well, you're in the perfect place for that. What do you consider to be a disruptive technologist? How do you define that role?
It's a tough one. I mean, because we're all fascinated by technology. So you're naturally going to lead with the technology first in anything that you're thinking about disrupting. But I think the key thing about being a disruptor is to be more influential in terms of why you make the decisions that you make. And I think the companies that are doing that really well and have done that over the time, it's proven itself to be I guess the best path forward. We see the companies that have gone from being just this tiny startup to now being some of the most profitable companies in the world. And it's because they're not just shoving technology down everybody's throats. They're being very meticulous as far as what kind of future do we want to create, and how do we want to deliberately influence the path forward, given the technologies that we're introducing to the market. So I think that's what it really means ultimately to be a disruptive technologist, is to be aware of the technologies that could facilitate tons of things as far as our lifestyle, but to be sensitive as far as, where do you want this to go? How can we intentionally create a future, that we could be prouder of, more inclusive in, and all of that stuff? I think that's what it really means.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so looking forward to having you speak. Thank you so much, Jamika.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Manojit Nandi, Manojit, last name Nandi, Nandi.
Nice. And Manojit, how did you come to be involved in the panel tonight?
So I guess my first start in data science was 5 years ago when I was in college, and there was a data science for social good fellowship based out of the University of Chicago. And so I was one of the fellows accepted in the inaugural class, and that sort of got me interested in how can I use my data science and machine learning skills in order to solve problems with high societal impact. So I worked on a project to basically build a system that could help the Red Cross or other first responders during a disaster by finding information on social media that could be useful. So if someone tweets, "Help, there's a fire downtown," we could take that tweet, figure out where it comes from, and then relay that information to the Red Cross, and so they can go assist those people.
Wow, that is definitely a great example of using technology for common good.
Yeah.
So when you say using technology to help, in natural disasters, how do we get technology in those places that, let's say, I have a bunch of people that I know that say Cuba doesn't have as much resources when it comes to Wi-Fi and resources like that. How do we get those resources to places that don't have them?
So I think with a lot of trying to bring tech to developed worlds, a lot of people try to bring advanced solutions way too quickly. And I do one thing that you can't really do this as a savior complex. You have to work with the local communities there. You need to help build up long-term infrastructure in order to have reliable internet and reliable technological infrastructure before you can start thinking about how can we then use advanced algorithms or machine learning to better solve those community problems.
Nice. And how long have you been involved with Disruptive Technologists and acting as an advisor or speaker?
Only a couple of months now. So Lauren reached out to me, I guess when they were planning this panel. They're oh, hey, you were recommended for this panel by a friend of mine. Would you be interested in speaking at this panel? I'm yeah, I can speak at this.
Nice. So where do you see the future of AI and technology, not only in the stuff that you're trying to do for common good, but just the overall picture?
So I guess I'm a focus on common good, and so I do think there's this idea of fairness and transparency in AI that we right now have a bunch of these black box algorithms that sort of determining people's fate, and we sort of realize that there are these problems with this where people are hired or fired based on this black box algorithm, and no one knows what this algorithm is doing. And so I think one thing we're looking into is how can we better understand what these algorithms are doing? Why did it make this decision? With a human, you can sort of ask them why did you fire me, and they can come up with some explanation, whereas with the algorithm is okay, it did some math and it made some decision based on that, but you don't understand what was the math it did. And I do think in the future going forward, we're going to start thinking about how can we de-black box these algorithms, both from the common good perspective, but in a general AI perspective, it's better to know what your algorithm is doing so you can catch those edge cases before it leads to a disaster or a PR disaster.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to having you speak tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Bruce Epstein, Bruceepstein.
And Bruce, what is your role here tonight?
I actually have a double role. First of all, I'm part of the Disruptive Technologists team, and I'll be moderating the fireside chat after the event at the pub across the street. But I'm also here representing the company that I work for in my day job, which is an automation company. And we've known Lauren now for quite a while. We actually sponsored one of her events last year.
Very nice. So tonight we have gathered best and brightest in AI and tech. How do you feel about being in a room full of people with so many different opinions and experiences that maybe match your own, maybe you're different, but how do you feel about the conversation that's going to take place later?
One of the really amazing elements of these events is just what you've mentioned about the broad diversity of talents and opinions and experience and visions that all come together. And from that discussion, new possibilities can emerge. So it's great if everybody comes with an open mind, listen to each other, bounce ideas off of each other, and that's how we make the entire sector progress.
Absolutely. It's just amazing how one person after the other is just so unique in their experiences and what they do. For you, where do you see the future of AI and tech, if you could make a prediction?
Wow, don't like making predictions, but...
I won't hold you to it.
No, that's okay. I think we're on the cusp of a major transformation in terms of how tech is used and where we see it in our daily lives. And in fact, the topic tonight is about ethics. And technology is neutral. Technology has no idea about what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. Technology just calculates and does whatever we ask it to do. And so my prediction for the coming year is that we're going to see regulatory bodies coming to that realization that they need to have some input into where the technology goes so that it's used for good and not used for any other purposes.
That is definitely going to be a big task at hand, but I'm all for it. I want to ask you this question since we've been asking everybody, but fill in the blank. I wish a robot could.
I'll give an example of what I wish a robot could. We walk into this room, and written on the chalkboard or the whiteboard is the Wi-Fi name and password. And what do 300 or so people do when they walk into the room? Each one pulls out their phone and with one finger have to copy what's on the board into their phone. Wouldn't that be great if there were a robot to do that for us?
Yeah, that's very true. And we'd never have to ask for the Wi-Fi password ever again.
Absolutely.
Wow, that would save me so much time. Nice. Well, I look forward to hearing you speak tonight and also talking with you later. Thank you so much, Bruce.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Hugh, H-U-G-H, Seaton, S-E-A-T-O-N.
So, Hugh, what is your involvement here tonight?
I'll be one of the panelists.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with Disruptive Technologists and Lauren?
I met Lauren actually online. Actually, I met on LinkedIn, believe it or not. So my company does a lot with AI, and we just got in a great conversation. And she said, "Hey, we're doing an event. Would you like to join us?"
Well, that's the best way. LinkedIn is such a powerful tool now for connecting with people.
That's right.
So tonight we're going to be hearing from so many different backgrounds and people in AI and tech. What is something that you are curious to hear? Like maybe it's a different opinion, or what do you think we're going to get out of this talk tonight?
I think we're going to hear some interesting perspectives on the meaning of AI. I mean, the title is about ethics. We don't even know what questions to ask yet because it's moving so quickly. I think privacy and some things that are related to data are already kind of obvious. But beyond that, we've got some pretty forward thinkers here. So I think you're going to hear some hypotheticals about where it might go. Hopefully we're going to calm down some fears about AI taking over the world. And I think, as I say, just some nice thought-through perspectives because the team, we actually met a week ago. Lauren's pretty cool. She got us to not quite rehearse, but get to know each other and talk a little bit. So I think it's going to be a really good discussion.
So you said people fearing AI taking over the world. Do you think robots will take over the world someday?
No.
Why is that?
A couple of reasons. One is that's really far away. So being able to build something that has its own will or has its own goals is not even close. It'll only have will if we give it will. The idea of it suddenly emerging isn't the way it works, in that the way intelligence works is architecture, not just a whole bunch of equations in your head, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it doesn't matter how powerful we make it, if we don't build it with an architecture that will have a bit that is about who I am and another bit is about who you are, it doesn't just happen. In our own minds, it doesn't just happen. There are parts that are where the you, that's you, the awareness of you comes from. It's not from your ears, it's not from, you know what I'm saying? So I think that the fears are a little overblown. The analogy sometimes gets made that's like worrying about traffic lights on Mars. There's a lot of distance between here and there. That said, conversations like this are how we make it not go wrong. Before we need it, we start thinking about what it might mean. Before autonomous cars are really all over the place, there's a really vibrant discussion about what rules should govern the inevitable once-in-a-while life and death decisions. And that's a good idea to not have a junior level engineer making that unsupervised. It's good to have society have this discussion and be as comfortable with it as we can be.
So I heard you talking about Star Wars a little earlier. I have to ask, what do you geek out on?
This, actually. I just came from a big talk with a local company where I was taking them through AI kind of from soup to nuts. Google is doing some things right now. Microsoft is doing some things right now. It's just moving really, really quickly. And trying to understand how it'll make life better right now as opposed to 10 years from now is kind of exciting for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
And lastly, what does it mean to be a disruptive technologist?
I think it's someone who's thinking about how to look at how things are being done now and think about literally swapping out a paradigm. So if we did it one way, let's try it another way. Let's look at what technologies can provide, it's important to also integrate that with how the world actually works so you can get a thing done instead of just making a great demo.
Nice. Well, I so look forward to hearing you speak on the panel tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you.
My name is Bruce Weed, B-R-U-C-E, Weed, W-E-E-D.
Nice. And Bruce, how do you know Lauren and the Disruptive Technologists group?
So I've known Lauren for several years now. I was one of the earlier members of the Disruptive Group, Technology Group board, and we've been meeting now for several board meetings, and then we have meetings here at Microsoft as well.
Very nice. And just personally, what do you do?
I focus on a lot of different technologies for IBM, most of them more the bleeding edge, so AI, blockchain, IoT, the cloud, big data, those type of technologies.
Yeah. We're hearing so much more now about blockchain and AI. Why is that? Why do you think now it's more of a hot topic?
Well, I think AI and blockchain solve a lot of issues that people are grappling with. So if we look at, blockchain being able to actually track things from a supply chain management perspective is really important, whether it comes to, things that are perishable like food or could be, related to pharmaceuticals, things of that nature. And AI, of course, is really kind of the innovative area which we're seeing come into our various technologies that we deal with every day, whether it's automobiles or whether it's human interfaces or dealing with things on the internet where we can actually speak and have that voice analyzed and figure out what it is we're looking for in terms of sentiment and things of that nature.
So what do you mean in terms of sentiment?
Well, AI can figure out what actually kind of mood you're in terms of how you actually phrase things, so it can actually parse out the words and analyze that. It can also do it from a written text standpoint, so now you can go back historically and look at documents, feed it into an AI engine, and it can actually figure out the mood, the temperament, and also just basically the kind of the personality of that person by analyzing volumes of text of that author or that person who wrote those materials.
That's really amazing. So other than what you're noticing now in mainstream trends, what are some companies that are doing it right that you feel like are on to the next big thing?
Well, I think there are a lot of companies in that arena. Obviously, IBM's doing a lot of stuff with Watson and blockchain. We see, Google doing a lot in AI as well. We see firms like Tesla, which is using AI in their automobiles. Yeah. So we're starting to see, I think, a lot of companies sort of embracing that. And I think it's kind of a race to see who's going to push it the furthest and the quickest.
It's kind of like who's going to put the first flag on the moon, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Nice. So what is one thing you wish that a robot could do that would make your life so much easier?
Oh, well, that would be great. So a robot, anything that could do like simplistic household chores, taking trash out, fixing minor things around the house, any of these kind of more mundane but yet time-consuming activities, that would be great.
Nice. I agree. We had a lot of people say taxes.
Yeah, I actually don't mind doing that, but I'm kind of into the math thing, so I'm probably not a good example of that, but I can see that as being one of them as well.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. I can't wait to hear you speak.
I appreciate it, and thank you for the time.
All right. Thank you, Bruce.
Take care.
Claudia Perlich, Perlich.
So, Claudia, how did you hear about this panel tonight, and how did you get brought on?
So somebody reached out to me, and I believe it was on LinkedIn. I think it was Lauren, our organizer. She may have heard about me in the context of some of my involvement. So I've been working with Data and Society and DataKind and AI Now, and I've always been interested in the topic, kind of lending some perspective from somebody who has been trying to do that in industry for a very long time. I don't know how she really found me, but that's how I found myself here. And then initially I thought I couldn't make it. Because I'm supposed to be teaching right now my MBA class from 6 to 9 in data science and business intelligence, and they graciously suggested just bring them. So about a third of the audience is my MBA course.
That is so cool. What do they think about their instructor teaching? I mean, not in teaching, but giving
I'm obviously the least objective person about this, but I think they're finding it very cool that they don't have to present their projects right now and instead having pizza here.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. What's better than that? But they're going to be hearing from so many other brilliant people, yourself included. What's a piece of advice you give to any young individual getting into the field, but just like in general when it comes to, I know technology and data mining, it's not always the first thing people think of, like that's what I want to go to school for, but what would you say to advocate for that?
So I'm always happy to tell the story of my dad when I was 18 and I could not decide what to do with my life. And I was reasonably good at math, but other than that had no real true conviction. And he told me, look, they will need computers everywhere in 20 years from now. And he was very right about this. In some sense, I postponed the decision, and I later on got to work in biology, working with genomic data. I worked in advertising. I now work with finance, and even social good and thinking about kind of the bigger picture. So I feel data is one of these things that having that skill, data provides a lens into so many different parts of society and science. So if you're curious, data is great because you can always learn something new.
Well, that is such a wonderful sentiment, and I think that is, the perfect way to kick off the panel that's going to start in a few moments. But thank you so much for talking with us, and I'm so excited your students are here.
My pleasure. Thanks you for having me.
Thank you, Claudia.